Hi, I'm Ben Fowle on the BD team with Applied Intuition Defense here at Nexus 2024, joined by Devaki Raj and Paige Kassalen from Saab, and looking forward to talking to you about what we're learning today and what we can learn tomorrow. You both came from an exciting startup and are now in an established defense prime. What could you tell us about that transition? What has been hard? What has been easy?
Yeah, honestly, we were really lucky. Saab has been an incredible place for accepting innovation. You know, they've established themselves as exquisite creators of hardware for 100+ years. So now they're like, okay, well, we know we do hardware really well. How do we continue to push the boundary to then attract customers and say, hey, look, Saab also pushes the boundaries on cutting edge technology. So that was part of the narrative of the acquisition, which makes sense and which also gives us this very wide berth to do a lot of interesting things within Saab, which is, hey, these are these great pieces of hardware. How do we augment them with cutting edge technology? It's not just AI, but it's also Dockerization or Kubernetes and things like that, right? So we've been really lucky that they've been really welcoming with open arms and open to newer technology to augment their existing exquisite hardware.
Yeah, and I think as Devaki said, I mean, we've been lucky to be really embraced by Saab, and everyone's excited for us to come in and share what we've learned from our work at Crowd AI. But I also think for us both personally, it's been really great to see how you can integrate like new and emerging technologies with legacy systems and actually create business value, because that's what we want to create for our customers and also for the U.S. government.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was really interesting to what Paige said is that we tried to do the same thing at Crowd AI, right? Our whole thesis was let's bring in our AI technology to a lot of legacy companies. As I mentioned before, we worked with companies like Anheuser-Busch, Honeywell. And so we're kind of taking that same stack of what we learned and bringing it into Saab, which is, it's not just about we do cool technology. It's really about how can you integrate it into legacy systems. And that, I think, is like the biggest challenge when you think about software-defined vehicles or anything. It's just that you think you could build this cool technology in a black box and then deploy it. That's not how it works. You have to integrate it with an already existing system. And Saab is really open to that.
So does that mean you're learning how to retrofit existing platforms with cutting-edge technology?
Well, I think it's a combination. It's retrofitting, but also bringing tech stacks up to what modern software looks like. So it's not just bringing in new technology. It's like, let's bring everything up to the software level that is status quo, and then starting to go beyond that with, the futuristic pipeline that I believe Saab has with the work that we're doing in AI.
What is something, Paige, that given that you were, as a startup, attempting to do business and we're able to do it successfully with big companies, with primes, now that you're on the other side of it, something that's like, okay, this didn't make sense then, but now I can understand why they made these decisions.
Yeah, I feel like we probably have a lot of learnings to share here, but I think one of the things that's nice is that even though Saab is a large company, it still is able to operate in different ways. So it's not so big that we have to move slow. And one of the things that our team is working on is this Enforcer 3 combat boat that's specifically designed to be able to plug and play different sensors and different hardware and software components. And I know from being at Crowd AI, that is exactly the type of technology that we would have wanted to partner with, because it allows you to come in really quickly, iterate, test in the operational environment, and just show how your product can be useful. So I'm glad now being on that other side, we're able to provide that platform for the collaboration with third parties, big companies, small companies, really anybody who has a technology that can help.
And how are you able to position something like that so that there will be a DoD customer, that it just won't end up being a demonstration for demonstration's sake?
Yeah, luckily our team, I think it's twofold, right? Luckily Saab is established prime for, decades. And two, people on our team built these programs such as Task Force 59, which is still a very leading edge task force and innovation unit within the Navy, just in the last few years. So luckily we have that DNA built within SCAPA that allows us to continue that. So that's the best way. It's like we've got customers, we've got use cases, and we've got intimate knowledge of the customer because, the leader of SCAPA was that customer.
So you're figuring out how to translate this from lean startup to established prime. What is the learnings or the pain points that you're dealing with as you attempt to do this with something even more established, even more bureaucratic, which would be DoD?
So when we started working with the DoD, we actually came in through DIU. So initially, we actually didn't feel the pain points. Getting on contract was extremely straightforward. Getting on these innovation projects like Project Maven or the Jake was actually fairly straightforward, which is why, we continued to work on that journey. If we realized that there would be, years-long continuing resolutions, maybe we would have looked like a very different company, right? So I do think that we've seen like the good and the bad, and I don't think that there's like a clear answer as to how it's going to look like if a new startup joins. It really depends on what the environment looks like. DIU got $1 billion right now, right? Or $1 billion+. So how are they going to deploy? Are they going to use, OTAs, or are they going to rely on, different forms of contracts that take a lot longer? But is this $1 billion going to lead to programs of record? We don't know, right? So there's a lot of things that need to be done, that need to be established, that we are waiting and seeing how it's going to look like.
Paige, when you look at the up-and-coming technology talent in the United States that hasn't had a chance to serve directly, but still wants to do something to support our nation, how do you think that they're able to be attracted and retained?
Yeah, I think I'm newer to the defense sector. So really before Crowd AI, I spent my whole career in commercial in the manufacturing sector and then the finance sector. And the thing that really attracted me was the types of problems we're solving. Like, these are problems that are impacting our daily lives. And I think that just even the education around that is really impactful, because if you can be spending eight hours a day programming something that, is going to actually make a difference in your life, or doing some of the CAL FIRE work that we had done at Crowd AI and now with Saab, that's a really, that's bringing a lot of value into what you can create and do with your career. So I think that there definitely needs to be more recruiting and education around some of these opportunities, in the fact that, in the defense or in the government sector, it's not only, a one-dimensional picture. There are so many things around, like helping first responders, a lot of different things that, these talents in the tech industry, like, we need them to come and help solve these problems.
And they'll get behind. Our team was second to none and continues to be second to none, because they can get behind a mission that's really exciting for them. Technology is great, but it's also applying it for something extremely impactful.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of impactful, Ukraine is always du jour when you're talking about technology, and consistently used as an example of a testing ground. What is something that the two of you are seeing coming out of Ukraine that isn't talked about enough?
So Saab is a European company, right? And it's a global company. I think the consistent narrative around the importance of support for Ukraine is something that we don't see in the US as much. So in terms of what I have learned is that steady drumbeat of continuing to provide innovation, but cheaply and quickly with quick iteration, is something that I know a lot of companies in Europe are continuing to do.
Like, what I'm curious about is, like, there people will talk about the first person view drone, but there's definitely like other kinds of technology potentially, or other iteration. And I think what you're hitting on is a great point in terms of, like, let's do it. How can we do it cutting edge but less expensive? Especially when you contrast it with like the F-35, which costs.
I think it comes down to contracting mechanisms. So honestly, it comes down to contracting mechanisms, which is, when we were a startup, we would not be able to sell directly to another government. We would actually have to go through the US government to sell to another government. So when we think about Ukraine, right, as a startup, how would I engage, right? You're very passionate. This is a really important issue. How do I provide technology to another country, right? There are ITAR restrictions around computer vision. So that was like something that very early on, when, we wanted to get involved, we were like, I don't know how to do this. Mm-hmm. I do think that nowadays, like, there's a lot more. So if you actually see in Silicon Valley and with the replicator program, so drone technology was really interesting. It was like the du jour, and then kind of there's a lull, and then with Ukraine now it's back up again. There's a lot of startups coming in, like these are cheap drones that we could build really quickly, and then retrofit because we see this very clear need in Ukraine. So I think it actually comes down to a contracting mechanism that allows it to make it easier. And if we're able to solve that, then I think that companies that are, cutting edge can go and provide these technologies. The alternative is like, if I'm a startup, how do I directly go engage with Ukraine? Well, I need to make sure it's cheap. I need to make sure that it's like very easily iteratable and modular, so I could actually provide value immediately to people that actually need it on the ground immediately. So I think there's unfortunately, it's two contrasting viewpoints.
Contrasting viewpoints.
So how do we get there?
It makes it interesting.
And how do we get there? Yeah.
You both are establishing a new part of Saab, SCAPA. How's that going?
Yeah, it's been really exciting, and I think, one of the things that I really like to think about is that when you're embedding some of these emerging technologies, it's not only about the technology; it's about bringing the company along the journey with you. And Saab has been so receptive of it. I know I have conversations all the time with our communications team and our recruiting team, and we're building out new job matrices for machine learning engineers and for communications. They don't understand all of the technical details, but they know they need to communicate it. So we're having these deep discussions, not even just with our engineering teams, but across the business, that's helping socialize the concepts of AI, which I think also helps a lot because, emerging technologies, AI specifically, everyone always has an opinion on it, but everyone has a different level of education. So by having these conversations, I think we're also helping people get more comfortable about incorporating the tech into our business.
Yeah, that's such a great point, which is there was no job matrix for machine learning engineer or deep learning researcher. Whereas like when you go to places like Google or deep tech companies, applied intuition, right? That's a standard part of your job matrix. So that was something that we had to learn to build because we were trying to expand our team with more data scientists and deep researchers in data science. And so that was just like a learning for us, which is you need to establish from starting at recruitment, what type of roles need to be filled, who's gonna come in, what kind of background do they need. And for us, it's like a day-to-day, this is what we do, this is what we live and breathe when we were at a company because we were trying to recruit those people all the time. But now Saab needs to, as they shift into let's become more software enabled, like cutting edge technologies, that was step one on that journey. Mm-hmm. Now we're doing things such as like, SCAPA is leading the movement within Saab is let's start bringing AI training courses for our established software engineers. So they're bringing in professors from Purdue to do training courses for our Python engineers to get more, to expand their skill set, right? So it's really about, bringing in great and new talent, but also then for these teams that have had, extremely strong talent for years, how do you also then up-level them with the new skills that are currently coming out at a very rapid pace? Mm-hmm. And SCAPA has been leading that within Saab, but Saab also is extremely receptive. Yeah.
It sounds like a really special example of where an acquisition has started to change a company that's over 100 years old.
Yes, we're really lucky, honestly. We're really lucky.
Mm-hmm. Last question. I heard you both talk about this in the panels you were on in terms of teaming. And how do you see teaming as a way to be able to advance technology adoption by the DoD?
Yeah, I think the Enforcer 3 is a great example.
Yeah, and so our Enforcer 3 combat boat that we're working on, we know that we can't build everything on our own, and we know that we're going to have to team. So we started with the design of this Enforcer 3, building it for teaming. So we can plug and play sensors. We can, I walked around on the boat last week and you can see where you can plug in different cameras right there, and just built with third parties in mind, and also knowing that the design of the boat has to accommodate like bringing on weight for hardware and power to power that. And also the final piece, just making sure that all the legacy systems work to perfection, because that's what we've been able to do for around 90 years. And we don't want that to be the thing that breaks. We want to be thinking of the future and making sure that our hardware is supporting those missions.
Thank you very much. It was great speaking to you two.